Treasure Island. Chapter 3. The Sea Chest. As soon as I could wipe the tears from my eyes, I ran and told my mother the whole story. We didn't know what we should do. The captain owed us money. He probably had gold in his sea chest, but what about the captain's enemies? They were coming back in a few hours. I was sure they planned to take the captain's money, and if we took it first, they might kill us. My mother was no coward. "We need that money, and I mean to have it," she said. "The key to the captain's sea chest must be on his body." My heart was beating fast, but of course I couldn't run away and leave my mother alone. We hurried to the parlour. Quickly, I searched through the captain's pockets. There was no key. Finally, I found it hanging on a string around his neck. We took the key and went up to the captain's room. My mother opened the chest. It was stuffed full of the captain's things. At the very bottom was a packet of papers and a cloth bag full of gold coins. Just then I heard a tap, tap, tapping. The sound brought my heart into my mouth. It was the blind man's cane tapping on the frozen road. "Take it all and let's get out of here," I cried. But my mother was an honest woman. She only wanted what she was owed. She started to count out the money, coin by coin. She counted very slowly. Before she could finish, we heard a low whistle. The blind beggar's friends were close by. We had to get away, fast. My mother took the money she had already counted. I reached into the chest and grabbed the packet of papers. If we weren't going to get all Billy Bones's gold, we might as well have his papers. Maybe they would turn out to be worth something. We ran outside and hurried down the path to the village. I could hear footsteps behind us. When I turned around, I saw a lantern winking in the twilight. Luckily, we were near the stream that ran between our inn and the village. I helped my mother scramble down the steep stream bank. She hid under the bridge, but I was curious. I crept back to see what was going on. There were 7 or 8 men in all, and the blind beggar was their leader. He stayed outside in the road, and the others rushed into the inn. They found the captain's body. Then they all charged upstairs to look for his sea chest. Suddenly, one of the men leaned out of the window of the captain's room. "They've been here before us," he shouted. "Do you hear that, Pew? The chest is opened." Pew must have been the blind man's name. "Is it there?" he called back. "The money is." Pew swore. He wasn't interested in the money. "It's Flint's papers I want," he said. "We don't see him here," the man in the window answered. "It's the people from the inn. It's that boy," Pew shouted. "I wished I'd put his eyes out." The men began to search the inn. I could hear them kicking in doors and turning over the furniture. Then I heard horses galloping up the road from the village. Blind Pew's helpers ran in all directions. Not one of them stopped to help him out. "Johnny, Black Dog, Dirk," he called out. "You won't leave me." But the others were already gone. Just then the horseman came over the hill. Blind Pew started to run. He was so confused that he ran right into the path of the horses. The horseman tried to stop, but it was too late. Down went Pew. His cry of terror rang out into the night. Then he cried no more. He was dead. Stone dead. The men on horseback offered to take me to Dr. Livesey so we could tell him what had happened. We finally found the doctor at the house of Squire Trelawney, the richest man in the area. The squire's house was large and fine. A servant led us to the library, where the walls were lined from floor to ceiling with books. The glow from the fireplace lit up the room. The squire and the doctor listened to my story. When Dr. Livesey heard that my mother and I had been brave enough to search for the gold, he slapped his leg. "Bravo," he said. Squire Trelawney got very excited when I told him that the blind man had talked about someone named Flint. "Flint was the bloodthirstiest pirate that ever sailed," he cried. Dr. Livesey was excited too. "I wonder if those papers show where Flint buried his treasure," he said. Dr. Livesey took out a pair of scissors from his doctor's bag and began to cut open the sealed packet. The squire knight looked over his shoulder. Inside was a sort of a diary. On one page there were a lot of numbers. It seemed to be a record of the money that the pirates had stolen. On another page was a set of directions. They told how to find the island where the treasure was buried. Beside the book there was a folded piece of paper. Its edges were sealed shut with wax. Carefully the doctor slit open the seals and out fell a map of the island. The map showed that the island was about 9 miles long. One of the big hills in the centre of the island was marked Spyglass Hill. There were other names too, and 3 X's made with red ink. Next to the third red X, someone had written in small, neat letters, "Bulk of treasure buried here." That was all, but the squire and the doctor were delighted. "This is what Pugh's men were after," said the squire. "But you, Jim, you were too quick for them. Now Flint's gold is ours for the taking. I'll start for Bristol tomorrow. In 3 weeks I will have the best ship in England." The squire outlined his plan. We were going on a treasure hunt. He would hire the ship and pay for the voyage. Dr. Livesey would be the ship's doctor, and I, Jim Hawkins, would go along as the cabin boy. "We were all going to be rich. We'll have money to eat," the squire promised. "Count me in," said Dr. Livesey, "but there is one man I'm afraid of." "Who?" asked the squire. "You," said Livesey. "You talk too much. We're not the only men who know about this paper." But the squire promised he would keep our secret. The very next day he left for Bristol to find a ship for our adventure.